Hi, I'm Larry Levin of the St. Louis Jewish Light, and I'm here with our editor-in-chief, Emeritus Bob Cohn, to discuss some current issues of interest to our readers. Hi, Bob.
Hey, Larry, how are you?
Good. Bob, on the heels of the tragic murders in Arizona and the wounding of Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords, former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin said some members of the media and political world were committing a blood libel in laying the cause of the violence to a lack of civility among pundits and public officials. How serious is it when someone uses a phrase like that in a context like this, and does it diminish the history and importance of what these kinds of phrases mean?
Blood libel has a very specific meaning. It was an anti-Semitic canard that Jews killed Christian children to use their blood to bake matzahs. And so Sarah Palin, by selecting this image, wherever she got it, I don't know, possibly from a Wall Street Journal op-ed, was more ill-advised than her using the crosshairs in her political ads when she targeted a number of congressmen who defeated, including Giffords. So it was just a very, very inappropriate, and it made it more, it was an example of the kind of inflammatory rhetoric on the left and the right that doesn't contribute to a positive public discourse.
So this is why a Foxman of the ADL came out and suggested that using that kind of phrase in this context is probably very inappropriate. Yeah.
He came out appropriately in opposition to it.
Speaking of the power of words, in Israel right now, there's a lot of debate about to what extent so-called NGOs, non-governmental organizations, can speak out or should speak out against the government or in support of forces aligned against Israel. And this has been discussed especially in the context of a proposal by Avigdor Lieberman in the last couple of weeks. Some would limit the operations and influence and speech of these groups, and some say doing so would result in a kind of McCarthyism. What do you think?
I lean towards describing it as a kind of McCarthyism, which would go against one of the strongest things about Israel is its rough and tumble, very free, open society in terms of debate. You have tenured professors at Israeli universities who don't even think there should be in Israel, and they have full rights. The press in Israel is very vigorous and very outspoken. And, we have groups like Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International that are from time to time critical of Israel and of our own government, and the proper way to respond is through the public debate.
Right.
So I would not be in favor of that.
Now, some people say that Lieberman's, his perspective comes from him being Russian, and that he emulates more of the Russian model of, you talk, you walk, rather than an open and free society. What's your thought about that?
I think, we're seeing with Putin, who has been pretty good vis-a-vis the Jewish people, by the way, but we're seeing this authoritarian streak returning to Russia, and that mentality is pretty pervasive. So I don't think it's far-fetched or unfair to Lieberman to say that some of that may result from his growing up in the milieu of an authoritarian state.
To a totally different topic altogether, in the same week that the St. Louis Orthodox and broader Jewish community lost one of its most beloved, Rebbetzin Paula Rifkin, the most progressive Orthodox rabbinic group in America voted against admitting females to its rank. Do you think you and I will see the day when there are Orthodox women rabbis, and do you think it's important that we see that in our lifetime?
Again, I'm affiliated with a Reformed temple, so I'm not going to presume to try to speak for the Orthodox community, but I think there are strong elements. Rabbi Avi Weiss, who gave this young woman the title of Rabbah,
right,
he was criticized for it. I think the day will come. Rebbetzin Rifkin and her husband, Rabbi Sholem Rifkin, were very open and accepting. He's still with us, but he's quite ill. And they took a lot of heat from more conservative elements within the Orthodox community for the very outreach that endeared them to the total Jewish community. And I think one of these days we will see that barrier fall so that Orthodox women who are steeped in Torah and Talmud could offer their spiritual services to their own community.
Is there an argument to the contrary that says if the Orthodox community chooses to not have female rabbis, they don't need to have female rabbis? And by the way, look at all the great things that the Rebbetzin did for the community during her lifetime not being a rabbi?
Well, she did many things, and she took the role, and she preferred the title of Rebbetzin, even though she was a clinical psychologist,
right,
and a highly respected one. But I think that it's important for the future, for younger people especially, who have a much more open view of society, that option be made available to them. There is of course, there are segments of the conservative movement, the traditional segments of the conservative movement, who felt that the conservative movement was going too close to reform. So we're much better at splitting than we are at merging in our Jewish life.
Bob, thanks so much for talking with us, and thank you for being with us this week. We'll
My
be back
pleasure.
soon. Take care.
Thank you.